Okay, so not too long ago, I made a video talking about how I shot an entire real estate video just using the iPhone 11 Pro, using this setup right here, the iPhone 11 Pro and the DJI Osmo Mobile 3, using the ultra wide angle lens, because in my opinion, that's what really took the iPhone to the next level. The ultra wide angle lens, whether you find it on the 11 Pro or the 11, it really made the difference for being able to shoot real estate video. But that being said, still, most of the time that I go out and shoot real estate video, I'm bringing this setup here, which is the EOS R and the DJI Ronin S, which is in this big old kit. And so with bringing all this stuff, and since that video has come out, I still have people ask me, should I shoot real estate on an iPhone? Should I shoot it on a real camera? So this video is gonna pretty much solve that question. What's going on, guys? Brandon Washington here, and in this video we're going to be talking about the differences between shooting a real estate video on an iPhone versus a real camera. Now this here is the Canon EOS R, which is by far, in my opinion, one of the best mirrorless cameras you can go with. It's simple, it gets the job done, great for photography, great for video, but personally you have to then match it with a really good lens like this guy here, the 16-35. Now that is the setup that I'm going to be using as far as the camera goes. And then, as we all know, on this side, we're just using the iPhone, the same thing that's probably already in your pocket, or you might actually be using to watch this video. Now when comparing two cameras like this, it can get really stupid really fast, and that's just because, well, frankly, these are two totally different tools. However, I decided to break down this comparison into 4 easy to follow categories. The first one is setup, the second one is usability, the third one is going to be quality, and the fourth one is actually going to be editing simplicity. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into that first one. So the first one is going to be setup, and that is taking both of these guys from their starting position. So with the iPhone, that's having the iPhone and the gimbal just laid out and setting this up. And then the second one is going to be using the EOS R, the Ronin S, and trying to set up each of these. Now, when using a camera on a gimbal, no matter what camera, no matter what gimbal, there is going to be some setup. But as you can see, setting up the iPhone is fairly easy. It takes less than a minute to actually get it going, and you're ready to start shooting. The EOS R, on the other hand, not quite as simple. Balancing the Ronin S is not a difficult task, I'll say that, but I have been doing it for a couple of years now since I've had this gimbal, and it still takes me about a solid maybe minute to 2 minutes to actually get this thing going, and that's someone who's been balancing this thing for a year. I've seen people struggle to get this thing balanced for like 20 minutes before, especially when it's their first time. So if you do decide to go this route and you are buying a gimbal for the very first time, definitely take some time and practice balancing it. It's not the easiest thing to get the first couple times, but the more and more you do it, the better you'll get. So when it comes to setup, obviously that point's gonna go to the iPhone, and it's just because it's a lot less. I mean, that's the whole reason why we're even considering shooting with the iPhone anyway. So now let's go ahead and jump over into shootability. I personally think that shooting real estate video on the iPhone is definitely the future, and I don't think that we're gonna see a lot of people lugging these big cameras into houses for very much longer. And especially as Apple continues to progress with the phones and making them better, I mean, this is just their first generation of ultra wide angle lenses, and right now it doesn't have stabilization, but I do see in the future that they're gonna add that. It's gonna get better low light performance, and ultimately it's probably gonna be the main tool that real estate agents choose to go into the house and actually capture all their real estate videos with. Now, if you want to know how I shoot my real estate videos using just the iPhone 11 Pro, I actually put together an entire video training course going over exactly that. I not only walk you through how I actually shoot the house, but I walk you through all of my settings on the iPhone, and then more importantly, I actually walk you through how I edit my video on the iPhone and on my actual Pro editor on my computer. So if you are interested in learning how to start shooting real estate videos using just your iPhone 11 Pro, definitely check out the links down below in the description, so that way you can find out exactly how I do that. Now, when lugging these two cameras throughout the house and actually shooting the real estate video, I will easily say that, the iPhone is way lighter. I mean, it's just I mean, it really feels like you're not really carrying much of anything at all. And obviously when you're shooting with the EOS R, it's gonna be a whole lot heavier. The gimbal on its own is a lot heavier. And then obviously the camera is gonna be heavier. In fact, the camera actually weighs more than the iPhone and the gimbal combined. But I will say that that is actually not necessarily a good thing. See, when you're shooting with the iPhone, when you don't have a whole lot of weight to kind of actually hold up, when you're walking through the house, it is so much easier to get this up and down motion in your shots, which takes a lot of practice on trying to get out, which means you have to make sure that you're, keeping your hands steady, you're keeping your feet paths right, you're walking heel toe, and you really have to play it back because on that small screen, it's also really hard to even tell if you're actually causing that to happen. Whereas on the EOS R, even though it's significantly heavier, that actual extra weight forces you to kind of get out a lot of those extra bounces. This is something that I've said in videos in the past, but having a heavier gimbal actually is a better thing, although it can work against you, and there's obviously a balance there depending on how much you can lift. But I will say that if you have a heavier gimbal, you tend to get smoother shots unless you're just completely struggling to actually hold it up. So although the EOS R actually weighs like probably 5 times more than this setup with the iPhone and the gimbal, I still have to say that the EOS R, as far as being able to shoot smoothly, is definitely going to be way better. All right, so now let's go ahead and hop into that third category, which is quality. Now, this is probably the #1 reason why someone is actually even watching this video or even considering going from the iPhone to a camera or deciding to drop down from a camera down to an iPhone to see if it's even worth it. And quality is going to vary. I'm going to be 100% honest with you guys right now and say that quality really is determined on the house. See, the iPhone does really great in bright situations. If you are shooting like a new build where everything is still white or there's really light colored floors or, there's not a whole lot in the house like wood paneling or dark furniture, the iPhone is gonna do flawlessly. I mean, I have shot videos on the iPhone where no one could actually tell that it was shot on the iPhone because the house looked great. But then you take the iPhone into a similar situation, but with a much darker house, and it becomes very apparent very quickly that this iPhone is not designed to handle that style of house. Now, quality is definitely going to be one of the areas where you can see a difference. Now, something I will say is outside of the house, I feel like the iPhone actually does a way better job. And if you're dealing with a house with big open windows, I also think the iPhone does a way better job than the EOS R. See, the iPhone has this thing called Smart HDR, which allows for it to expose for the inside of the house and the exterior at the same time, which is something that cameras just frankly can't do. I mean, they have pretty good high dynamic range, but they don't actually have the Smart HDR where it's actually compensating for both at the exact same time. So what this means is when you get a shot using your camera, you're gonna be able to get some of the window and some of the information out there, but not even close to what you can actually get with just the iPhone alone. There have been times where I was actually shooting a house with my actual real camera and it was going well, I was getting all the shots I needed, but then I got to this one room where the windows where whatever reason, the sun was beaming in straight at the windows. It was just completely blowing out the shot. And so in order to actually grab this shot, I actually grabbed my iPhone, threw it on the gimbal, got that one shot, and then kept moving forward because the iPhone just does a way better job at handling those high dynamic range situations. There's gonna be probably a ton of conversation down in the comments when it comes to quality because as a lot of you know, when the iPhone starts to lose some of its quality in those low light situations, the shots can get a little noisy, you can start seeing grain. But one thing that I will just recommend, and then I'll hop off this subject, is that you also have to remember where people are gonna be watching these videos. See, the iPhone does get kind of grainy in dark situations, and when it starts to shift, you can maybe see some of it on the phone. You'll probably definitely see some of it on your computer, but whenever you go to actually upload the video, whether you're uploading it to YouTube or you're uploading it to Instagram or Facebook or really anywhere else, no one else really will see it because all of the social media platforms are going to add a certain level of compression and denoiser on the video. And realistically, all that noise that you're really seeing on your computer or maybe on the back of the screen of the iPhone, you're not gonna see it once it gets posted. And that's something that I always have to take into consideration. So that's why for me, as far as quality goes, the iPhone 11 Pro is perfectly fine for shooting real estate video, because all those little imperfections that we may see, especially if you're like a filmmaker who actually cares about this kind of stuff and you're looking at it, you're gonna see those things and be like, nah, I can't really use this. But the truth is, by the time that you edit it, throw it up on your whatever social media platform you plan on putting it on, they add their compression and their denoiser on it, and no one else is gonna really see it. And if the house looks good, no one's paying attention to the noise that's in the corner of the shot. They're just looking at the finished, overall, good-looking real estate video. All right, and the fourth and final subject that I wanna touch on is editing simplicity. Now, when it comes to editing video from the EOS R or on the iPhone, it's basically the same. I mean, the footage is about the same. You know, obviously the iPhone is shooting in 4K at 60 frames per second if you set it that way, which is what I recommend. But the truth is, it's not really that heavy of a file. And the EOS R is going to be able to shoot at 1080 at 60 frames per second. You may get a bigger, more powerful camera that can shoot 4K 60. And you could definitely go that route if you choose to. That's gonna vary depending on the camera. But the one thing I will say is that I love the fact that with an iPhone, you're pretty much getting everything you need in one. Like, for example, you can actually shoot an entire real estate video on your iPhone and then edit the entire real estate video right here on your iPhone. And you can do it all in a matter of like an hour. I've literally went to a house, shot the house, and actually edited the video right here on my iPhone, all in a matter of like an hour, maybe an hour and a half after I sent it out, exported it, and all that great stuff. But legitimately, it can all be done from right here on your phone. There's no way to do that on an EOS R. With this, you're going to have to go to a computer and you're gonna have to edit that video, which means it's going to take longer. However, there is always a trade-off. What you're able to do on an iPhone is not gonna be as good as what you can do on a computer. There's just better editing tools on computers than there are on phones. But if you're using an iPhone, that doesn't mean you can't use a computer to step your game up. You can easily airdrop your footage from your iPhone over to your computer and then start editing, which is exactly what I do. I love shooting on the iPhone, but I don't necessarily think that editing here allows me to have all the creative control that I'd like. So I typically will airdrop my files from the iPhone over to my computer and do all my editing there. But I know the big question comes down to, well, which one do I prefer? The iPhone 11 Pro, this guy here with the EOS R. Well, honestly, when I'm going out and I'm getting paid by clients, I typically take out the EOS R, and realistically, that's just so that they feel better about the video. Obviously, as we all know, perception is sort of everything. And so if a real estate agent saw me showing up with my iPhone to shoot the video, they may not be on board just yet. However, I'm now starting to get some real estate agents who are perfectly fine with me just bringing out the iPhone because they've seen the end product. And ultimately, that's all that should matter, is what are you actually able to create out of this? Now, if you are a real estate agent and you're thinking to yourself, can I get away with just using an iPhone? Heck yeah, you can. Just take out your iPhone and start shooting video. And of course, check out the training course down below, so that way you can have all the tips and tricks you need in order to actually get started. But thank you guys so much for checking out this video. I appreciate you guys hopping in. Let me know if there's any questions, any additional follow-up you have for me down below in the comments, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.